Welcome to another episode of Vital Doc Talk. And today we have Fisayo on with us, and he's actually a friend of my previous guest, Omar Khatib. Fisayo, why don't you tell us a bit of your background and your new hot startup that's taken off?
Thank you so much, Vlad. It's nice to be here. My name is Fisayo Ositelu. I'm actually a physician by training. I went to Stanford School of Medicine where I got my MD and also my MBA. Decided not to practice and went into the tech world instead. And last year started a company called Gentem Health, which is really focused on helping physicians, providers in general, simplify their billing and reimbursement experience.
That is awesome. And how old is the startup actually? You guys are pretty new, right? You guys just started and you're just rising fast.
Yeah, we're pretty new. We started last June.
Yeah.
And, last year was essentially more of the proof of concept stage, working with a few practices to really help them understand the opportunities for improving their operations, their billing operations, where they're leaving money on the table, as well as also helping them with the cash flow, which is one of the unique features of our model. We pay practices upfront. So immediately we process your claims, we'll pay you upfront instead of you having to wait weeks, sometimes months, dealing with denials from the insurance carriers.
So can you take us through kind of like a story of like somebody that you worked with and then they were like, this is amazing, because I know billing is a problem, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to appreciate what we do, you have to understand the status quo right now. It's really a headache for a lot of doctors to do the billing in terms of their operations. It tends to be quite manual, labor intensive, and really unreliable in some ways, dealing with insurance companies with denial. So a lot of administrative overhead. What we do is we automate as much of that process as possible using best-in-class, analytics and AI to automate key parts of the revenue cycle. For instance, like prior authorization, eligibility, really scrubbing the claims, pricing the claims and things like that, interacting with payers. We've automated a lot of that stuff. And then we're able to pay doctors, healthcare providers in general upfront. And so the folks that we tend to work with are folks that are looking to improve their, their revenue cycle operations, their billing operations. They might feel like they're not making enough money. They might feel that their costs are too high. They might feel that their cash flow is not as efficient. And so in all those scenarios, we're able to come in, work with their existing platforms, existing EHRs, practice management systems, really help them surface up the analytics that would help them pinpoint where there are opportunities to improve. And if they decide to work with us, we will start processing their claims and pay them immediately. And so, smoother cash flow, higher revenue, and really plugging those leakages.
That's awesome. What's the doctor response been? What have they said?
It's been great. It's been great. We raised our seed. So as I said, we started last year. We're a fairly new company, but we're able to actually raise a seed round, which is the first round of funding in the venture model. We raised almost $4 million, which is a testament to the traction we're having. And we have targeted primarily surgeons, but we're now starting to move much broader. And the response has been positive because not only are they able to see an uplift in their revenue, but also they can interact with our technology, our tools to help them be more efficient. And I think us coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, like Silicon Valley tech, bringing in that tech as well as medical approach has really been the difference. Our team comes from Stanford University, Facebook, Amazon, Apple. Those are what our engineers. And, we have some fantastic advisors and investors that's really helped us build a platform that a lot of providers, a lot of doctors are loving right now.
That's awesome. And during COVID, how has that impacted, number one, your business and the healthcare industry in general?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's definitely impacted our business, but we see it as an opportunity. So as you know, we work with a lot of surgeons, and because elective surgeries were sort of put on hold, they experienced a lot of a declining their volumes, right? And then the shift towards telemedicine, and that's been a big thing. So I think for us, we saw three things with COVID, like the three things that doctors really experience and they need to be thinking about. Number one, the rise of telemedicine. I'm sure every single doctor at this point is using some kind of telehealth platform, but we believe it's actually going to be here to stay, and so that means really rethinking the way you set up your practice such that you're not only optimized for in-person visits, but also telehealth visits. And so we are playing we're putting quite a bit of resources in telehealth and really helping doctors understand how to do it effectively and creating a seamless infrastructure for billing and payments for that platform. And so telehealth, which is like a care delivery innovation. The second thing is doctors are having to think a little bit differently about how they get paid now. Because of the primarily fee-for-service model, where you have to come to the appointment before you can get paid. Doctors are in this situation where they didn't get paid for a while, and so what are some other models that doctors can use? We've seen things like something called DPC, for instance. It's called direct primary care, where doctors are just getting subscription off directly from patients. Doctors are thinking about ways a little bit independent from the insurance companies right now. Can you actually contract directly with the employer? That's another model. And unfortunately, doctors and healthcare providers in general sort of got the short end of the stick in interacting with hospitals. Some of them got laid off, hours reduced, furloughs and the like. And so doctors are really starting to think more about, how can I make sure this doesn't happen again? How do I empower myself financially, right? And so these are some of the things that, at least from our perspective, we've heard a lot of physicians say. And lastly, the last thing really quickly is doctors are now starting to pay attention to data. They won't have a choice, because you need analytics and data to make sure that your practice is working efficiently, that you're understanding where the leakages are, you understand how much money you're leaving on the table, and most importantly, you have the guidance and direction to take the right kind of action. And so telehealth, payment innovation, and analytics, that's what I think is how COVID is making a lot of physicians think in this time.
That's really smart. I definitely agree on all three fronts. On the analytics side, because I feel like, especially for doctors, especially like, one woman armies or one man armies, the
Right.
data side can be quite tricky. How have you seen them, get that handled? Or are there, anything you recommend they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. From our experience, you have to really understand the use case for analytics, and you have to realize that doctors are busy and their time is literally money. And so we have created different, modules for the practice manager, who actually is the one that ends up overseeing the practice day after day, and the doctor and the physician, who is sort of has an oversight type role. So for us, it's all about creating a very easy to use platform and interface as compared to the status quo right now, which tends to be quite clunky. So we've invested a lot of time and effort in bringing the best of Silicon Valley tech consumer companies and bringing that to healthcare. So making the platform as easy to use as possible. Instead of like this maze of clicking a million times, just one click, easy to use, very intuitive. And also being able to give people the ability to start at a high level and then dig as granularly as possible. So we know, for instance, the practice manager or the in-house biller might want to get an exact information on a particular claim. They might want to know, was this claim prior, or was there prior authorization required for this claim? Or what was the reason why this claim was denied? We have that level of detail in our platform, very easy to access, versus a doctor that might just want to see the overall picture and the overall trend and making sure they're moving in the right direction. So I think the key insight is understanding that analytics is not just throwing a whole bunch of things at you, but also realizing that doctors, time is money. They want to know how they're trending. They want very clear instruction on tips to improve their practice and actionable insights. So that's what we've done.
Awesome. I love that. And what do you if you were a doctor right today and you lost, let's say, half, because we had different guests on, like a dermatologist or a dentist, right? And they lost half of their clientele, would you, to grow the company, what would your tips be there? Because I know in the startup world, you've done that, right? You've raised fundings, et cetera. And I think it's important now more than ever that since you have to be lean, people have to think like a startup co-founder anyways.
Right. Yeah, it's a very unique time, and this is the time to be scrappy. And so what I would advise, or what we've seen, is just really understand that the patient or your customer is really the asset here. And there are a number of ways to approach it. One way is to try and get new patients and new customers and marketing and all of that stuff, which is great. And we certainly encourage that. The other approach is to really figure out, how can I better serve my existing clientele, right? How do I do such a great job with my patient? If for the dermatologist, how do you, improve whatever underlying skin condition that they have? How do you provide them more services, more value-added services that actually help the patient and help you, right? And what happens is that patient, or that client, would be an evangelist, right? And they'll refer their friends, their families, and the like. So the key is to really understand your patient panel, understand who are the folks that are really engaging with you and really love you, and who are the folks that you're helping out the most, and just doubling down on those folks. And as well as sort of using other strategies, obviously, but I would say that is what I would do now, given conditions.
That's a really golden tip, by the way, because one of the books I'm reading right now is called The Referral Engine by a guy named John Jantsch. I don't know if you read it. Jantsch, I think I got his last name right. But The Referral Engine, great book, and it talks about how to generate more referrals. And besides creating a system to ask for them, he says, what actually makes you or your business referral worthy, right? And as you pointed out, if you're not increasing the value of your services, and if you're not delivering outstanding work, it's always going to be harder to grow. And that's oftentimes kind of the easiest place we can look at to start generating more referrals. So that's awesome. If you were, I don't want to take too much of your time, by the way, but if you were advising a doctor today and, they said, okay, we have all these millions of different things. We can do social media. We can look at the referrals. We can look at the payment integration, et cetera. What's like one step you think they should take, to basically start getting themselves out of the situation?
Yeah, I would say, I come from a very, technology centric, data centric place. So with that caveat, I would really encourage doctors to look into their existing data. And when I say that, I mean look into the data and figure out, in my practice, what are the things that are, where am I losing money? Where are the lost opportunities, right? Especially now that they might have a little more downtime. The data is really gold here, because once you start looking at that data, it will give you unexpected insights. So for instance, you can figure out that most of your claims denials are coming from some kind of clerical issue on the front end. So not collecting the right, or not updating demographic information, for instance, right? Things that are easily fixable if you understand this is where my denials are coming from. Or if it's a coding issue where certain kinds of claims are denied because you're coding your records in a certain way. And with data, you can really find out the trend. You can start to understand the trends for that. And I think getting that level of knowledge would really empower doctors moving forward to say, hey, I know if I change this thing, I can see a 7% lift in my revenue based on the data. And so that's what we try to offer on the front end. We try to really fix the issues first and then build on top of that foundation. So that's what I say.
That's huge. That's gold.
Yeah.
So I think looking at your losses, right? Looking at the data and how to prevent losses is definitely much easier than going in and basically trying to experiment, etc. So it's definitely golden tips.
Yeah, because the data, and really quickly, the data is really, it's not gonna lie to you. If you find that you're seeing a certain pattern of underpayments from a certain payer, the data will surface that to you. If you're seeing that you have to do a lot more work to collect from a certain payer versus the other, the data will show you that. And so it's being able to see these things and say, all right, I'm going to take this action, and I know by taking this action, this is what's going to happen to my revenue. It's going to be we're going to uplift that by another 5%. Those things really add up, especially in these times.
100%. Thank you so much, Fisayo. And where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on our website, www.gentem.com. So we're Gentem Health, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well. All social media, also social media, Fisayo Ositelu. We're happy to interact and share tips or show you a demo of our product or help in any way that we can.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. That's another episode of Vital Doc.